Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to J Webb's The Beast 2 Racing here with another Forza Horizon 4 video. This one is on how to tune the '05 Ford GT. I'm gonna start by showing you the upgrades to purchase as well as how to tune it through the fine-tuning section. First things first, when I start tuning a car, the first thing I want to do is the weight reduction, because not only does it help with handling and speed, it helps with acceleration, launch, anything that you would need to have a good car. And then you always want to use the roll bars, because that's the best way to tune your car's performance and get it to turn the way that you like. And then the race springs. Now we're going to go over to the conversions tab. I am going to be using this online, so I'm going to be converting it to all-wheel drive. Here we have the engine swap. We have the stock engine, the 8.4 liter V10, a racing V12, and a V6 twin turbo. The V6 twin turbo and the V10 are two very good engines for S1 class. I will be using the V10 because not only does it give you a little bit more power and torque, but it costs less PI than the V6 twin turbo. So I'm going to be going with the 8.4 liter V10. Come over to the aspirations. You have the choice of naturally aspirated, twin turbo, positive displacement supercharger, or centrifugal supercharger. When it comes to the centrifugal supercharger, anytime you're able to pick it, that should be your go-to, because not only does it give you the same amount of power as the twin turbo, the regular supercharger. The twin turbo costs too much PI for the little more amount of power you would get. But it's your best bet is to go with the centrifugal supercharger. Now we're going to move on to aerodynamics and put on the front wing and the rear wing. We're going to come over to the tires compound and put on the racing tire. We're going to make the rear tire as wide as possible. And as you can see right now, we're at S2902. But by putting on the heavier rims, you will reduce a PI. You can also bump up the rear tire size by 1 to reduce it to S1900. But what I like to do, first things first, you want to put on the race differential. You won't be able to put on any of the clutch, transmission, or driveline. When you do convert it to all-wheel drive, it does give you the sport clutch, which allows you to tune your final drive. Actually, with this tune, we should be able to fit on the race transmission. And now to get that 1 PI down, you come to the engine. I am going to walk you through the best things to use when tuning a car. Unfortunately, we won't be able to put it onto this car because of the PI, but the first thing you want to check is your aspirations tab to get more power. That's the best way to go about giving your car more power and performance. Next would be the displacement. That's another good option. It will allow your car to get more power. And then the exhaust is a very good upgrade part as well, because not only does it reduce weight, but it gives you power. But in order to get rid of that 1 PI, what I do is come over to the intercooler, and you can put on the street intercooler, which gives you 12 more horsepower. It makes your car a little heavier, and then also if you want a little more power out of it, you can also put on the race cooler. Adds 40 pounds, but it only gives you 6 horsepower, so don't do that. If you do, you could put that on and maybe put on the clutch or a drive line to reduce that weight. But we're going to leave it with the power that it has currently. Sometimes you're able to sneak on the drive line, but unfortunately it'll bump us up into S2 class. So the build that we're going to stick with is 764 horsepower, 679 foot-pounds of torque. It weighs 2,916 pounds. So that is what I do for the upgrade section here. We're going to move on to the fine-tuning section. I'm going to show you the tunes that I use for this car, so that this way, you know, if you need to learn how to tune or, you know, get an idea on what works. So for the tire pressure, the sweet spot is anywhere between 18 to 15 PSI for the Ford GT. I use 18 PSI. It may seem a little low, but for the game, it doesn't recognize the friction and the negative actions that it would take place in real life. Come over to gearing. You just tweak the final drive. I go to 3.30, so that this way we can hit a top speed of about 220 miles per hour. For the alignment, I go to 1.2 and 0.7, and for the caster, I do 6.5. By the alignment, it helps you turn a little better, as well as you know, be able to turn at those 90-degree turns a lot better. For the anti-roll bars, anytime you have all-wheel drive, always start the anti-roll bars at 165. It may sound crazy, but that is the best way to go about it. It will give more grip to the front than the rear, and it'll actually help you make the turn a lot better, and you won't have much understeer. For the front springs, I do 475 in the front, and then in the rear, I do about 590. No, actually, I do about 580. And this way it allows the car to turn very well, the front grip, and then I do lower the car as far as possible. For the damping, I go to 12.1 and 11.6, and then I do 3.3 for the bump stiffness, and I do 4.0 for the rear. And basically the rebound stiffness is the extension of the spring, and the bump stiffness stiffens that and only allows it to extend to a certain point. For the Ford GT, I do a completely negative rear wing. Normally in the S1 classes, you want a full front and a completely lowered rear, but in the case of the Ford GT, you want to have it 265 and 265. For the brakes, we didn't put the race brakes on because the Ford GT brakes are already very good. But if you were to put the race brakes on, what I do is, for the balance, I put it 46% to the rear, and then the tire or the braking force, I do 200%. For the differential, I always use 100, 0, 100, and 0, and then I leave it at 65% to the rear for the balance of the all-wheel drive. And that's the tuning setup that I use for the Ford GT. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I hope this helped you out. The next tuning video, I will go into much more detail on what each tuning characteristic does to the car, but at this point in time I'm just making a tutorial on how to tune an OP Ford GT05 for online ranked racing. I will save this tune, so if anybody wants to download it so they don't have to make their own, feel free to do so. I will name it YouTube video. I hope this was helpful to everybody. I hope you learned a lot from it. Thanks for tuning in to J Webb's The Beast 2 Racing here on YouTube. Like I said, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And as well, if you have any suggestions for future videos you would like to see, let me know in the comments. Or join Discord and let me know through Discord. I hope this was helpful to everybody. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.